Welcome to the REI Diamond Interview, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom with Dan Breslin.
Welcome to the REI Diamonds podcast, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom. I'm Dan Breslin, and today I'm here with a special guest, Jim Zaspel. Jim runs a fix and flip renovation company with his wife in the greater Philadelphia region, Montgomery County, Bucks County, just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And he do anywhere from 12 to 20 houses at a time. We're going to spend the first half of the podcast talking about, the process of finding the inventory to fix and flip, 10, 15, 20, 30 houses throughout the course of a year. And obviously that takes a lot of private money or hard money or some way to fund that. So we're also going to get into how Jim's process for finding the private funding, which has generated more than $4 million, which he uses to fund his fix and flip business. We're going to wrap up the call toward the end. Jim's going to share some valuable insight as far as goal setting. One of the goals that Jim had personally was to make $1 million in 1 year, and he is on target to hit that this year for the first time in his life. So he knows a thing or two about getting his goals accomplished. And Jim is also the founder of the Greater Philadelphia REIA in Philadelphia Marketplace. So without further ado, let me bring on Jim Zaspel. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Dan. Glad to be here.
So, I like to start off each of these interviews with the origination story. What did you do before real estate, and how did you get into what you're doing now?
Sure, I'll tell you about that. And I think one thing that your listeners are going to discover is that I'm really not that sharp, and that if I can do it, they can do it. And so I'm glad to share that story. I'm a college dropout. Went to community college for just 1 year part time. As the day of this recording, I'm 28 years old. I bought my first house. I was 22, and I've been an entrepreneur almost my entire life. Started cutting grass when I was 12. Did the landscaping thing for 10 years, and I was frustrated beyond belief. I was making $70,000 a year as a 20-year-old, but really I was just working 2 full-time jobs. So I was working 2 $35,000 a year jobs, happened to be the same one because I was working so many hours. And my dad, who was a minister, knew I wanted to get into real estate and was kind of frustrated. So when I was 18 years old, he bought me a book on real estate investing. 3 years later, I read it. I thought, holy crap, I can do this stuff. So I spent $5,000 going to a seminar, teaching me how to do no money down deals. And when I was 22, it would have been March of 2009, I did my first deal, the wholesale deal, made almost $14,000 on it. And since then, I've been over 160 deals of all shapes and sizes and kinds. So that's my long story short. And lost everything with the economy, or not everything, but lost. The bottom of my business fell out when the economy fell out in 2008. So I was looking for something new, man. How to do it.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of, obviously some of us have been around through at least that downturn. I wasn't quite as young as you. That's pretty cool that you started at 22. But I think that probably you would agree with me, Jim, that, we were just ill-equipped I know a lot of people were ill-equipped to handle the downturn in the market, but I feel like if something like that were to take place now, you and I would both probably have a little different strategy to not quite, touch down, as it were. I mean, I lost, everything, and I was pretty much almost out of the game when the market downturn happened. I mean, would you agree with that? We probably have or let me twist that around. What would you do different if the downturn occurred right now?
If a downturn happened right now, well, first of all, I have this unshakable belief that you can absolutely make money with real estate in any market, any economy. Okay. Right now, the market's hot. I think it's a little sketchy. And so, I don't know when it's going to turn down. I think depending on what happens with the election, that kind of stuff could really, turn to crap really fast. And so we're in the rehabbing side of things primarily right now. So my exposure is only 5 months per deal, or just under actually. So anyway, what would I do differently if the economy crashed? If I could get the funding for it, what I would do is I would buy as many. I wish I'd done this more in the downturn, but I would buy as many rentals as possible, and I would hold them then when the economy comes back, ride it up. You got to buy them cheap enough, so even if it dips lower, you're fine. But buy them and hold them as long as possible, or maybe sell them on a lease option, which I've done a ton of. And that's how I would do it. And if that doesn't appeal to you, you can't get the funding for it, which Dan we talked about. I'll tell them later. But if that doesn't appeal to you, there's always wholesaling. I don't care what the economy is, there are always people, cash buyers out there ready and willing and able to buy houses.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I know you're well-versed in wholesaling. You're well-versed in lease options. You had done a lot of that when we had first met a few years back. And then along the line, you kind of switched to now being primarily a rehabber, right, Jim?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of rehabbing right now, my wife and I together.
Okay, so talk about that transition. How do you go from, wholesaling and doing lease options and things that don't require a ton of cash to rehabbing, which does require a ton of cash?
When you said transition, I thought you meant the transition being single to married, but that's a whole other conversation. But oddly enough, it did kind of happen not quite simultaneously, but within a year or two of each other. So to back up a little bit, my first year in the business, I tried my hand at 3 different rehab projects, and I lost $20,000, $22,000, and $25,000 on each of them. So that hurt me out in rehabbing for a while. And really, all I did was just fail to follow some simple rules that really need to be followed when it comes to rehabbing, how to control the contractor, how much money to give them when, knowing what areas to invest in, and knowing what really sells the house in terms of design. So transition was in 2013, late 2013, saw the market really picking up, which maybe it picked up before that, I don't know. But for me, that's when I saw it, late 2013. And so early 2014, we then my girlfriend, Marina, now she's now my wife, bought a couple of houses, rehabbed together, and it sold within a week. It was like 3 days, I think it was, and for $100 over asking. I was like, holy moly, this is awesome. And that was in Plymouth Road in Glenside. And I was like, this is sweet. I want to do more of it. And so I was really cautious. We'd do 1 or 2 at a time and sell them. And I think we just barely got out, but they kept selling so quickly. So long story short, not every deal's gone great. Haven't lost money on any houses yet. Made $36 on one, and we're closing one in a couple of weeks. We made $300 on it. That's as close as I've come to losing money in the past couple of years on a deal. So I'm pretty excited about that. So how do we get started? Cautiously. I learned my market by making a ton of offers. I did team up with a great realtor. Now my wife is an agent as well. But that's kind of how I got started. Just wanted to test it out, and it worked.
Nice. Yeah, I remember, ever since I got into the business, I only – like a lot of people who get started, you don't know about wholesaling, you don't know about doing lease options. So the only thing I really knew I wanted to do was fix a house up, sell it. I did some of that in the beginning. I made a couple bucks on my first ones. I didn't lose any money early on. Then, we were kind of pushed out 2009, 2010. And then we were literally, I remember my partners and everybody I was doing business was scared to pull the trigger on anything. Finally, in 2012, I did not consciously study the market. I just knew that I wanted to rehab houses again. I was doing, some wholesaling all along the way. I just basically pushed forward and, bought a couple deals, luckily made a few bucks on them. And, I just kind of almost by default, I just wanted to do it. I didn't make a conscious decision or study the market and realize things were great again or anything like that. I like the process of seeing a property go from a decrepit, sometimes vandalized, sometimes, who knows what's going on. Nobody would want to live next to some of these houses that we purchased, Jim. I like the process of taking that back. And I've seen some of the photos of when you're done, and you do a great job of putting the houses back together. I mean, do you think that your quality level is part of what, has you experiencing the fast sales? Like, let's dive into your process of selling the houses quickly, if we could.
Sure. So, yeah, our houses do sell quickly. Most of them sell within a week, but almost without exception, they all sell within a month, except for one subset, and I'll explain that later. But what makes them sell quickly, I do think it's our design, but before that, we really focus on doing deals where people want to live. And that's key. I think it really is. So, yeah, it's harder to find the deals there. I mean, you can go to North Philly and find all the vacant houses you want, but nobody really wants to live there. So we do deals in suburbs where people want to live, as well as different parts of the city where people want to live. That's the biggest thing. But in terms of doing deals in those areas, what really makes a big difference is the design. So we focus on 3 things: kitchens, bathrooms, and then I'll just use the word open flow, or I guess that's 2 words. But the opening things up is that's what we focus on, and it really proves well for us.
I don't know that we covered it, but let's give people an idea of the size of your business right now, numbers-wise,
Sure.
How many you've done in the last year, where you're at right about now, just to kind of, show people that you know what you're talking about here.
Okay, that's fine. So at any given time, my wife and I are rehabbing from 12 to 20 projects. So when I say 12 to 20, what that means, full disclosure, is we're either about to buy it or about to sell it or anywhere in between. So under contract to buy, under contract to sell, or somewhere in between. We own 12 to 20 rehabs at a given time. There's usually about 10 under construction at a time. We have 2 general contractors. We're starting with a third, then soon to be a fourth general contractor to grow our teams. So that's what we've done. We'll do this year. If all we do is sell the houses we own, I think we'll sell 38 or 39 rehabs, plus the wholesale deals and lease options we're still doing. And we'll net just over 7 figures, just over $1 million this year, which is pretty exciting. And that's, again, if all we do is sell what we already own.
Congratulations on that. That's a huge number. I'm not there yet.
Yeah, thanks. It's exciting. It's humbling, but really that had been a goal I had since I got started in this business. And to me, it was just this unachievable goal I had, but it was like I didn't believe it. So I think a mistake I made was kind of putting all my hopes in it. It was like this. It's like when you're in junior high or high school, you get this really hot girl that you want to go after, but like you idolize her so much, you're just afraid to even approach her. Maybe I'm just a total nerd and nobody else has experienced that, but that was me. And so anyway, with this, I made too much of that. I think it's kind of why it took so long. But really, we learned what it took to make good money and how to leverage our efforts, and we focused on doing the right things. It was kind of fun. Like every couple of months, we'd look up and it's like, oh wait, if all we do is sell a house now, we'll make $350,000. Then it was $500,000. Then it was $700,000. And then we just kept working. We didn't constantly sit back and count our money. And we just kept working. Finally, we had this spreadsheet we use that calculates, has all the deals that we have under work, sold, owned, and all that kind of stuff. And then I remember one day I looked up, it was $1,078,000. Holy crap, that's awesome. The spreadsheet talks to each other. And it's really cool. The biggest thing is just focusing on making a ton of offers. I made 7 offers yesterday, and we got one accepted. I just got the text about 10 minutes ago from my realtor, and it's a sweet house. I'll tell you about it later if you want. But, so that's our process, focus on making offers.
That's cool, man. That's powerful. So we're going to get into construction a little bit later on the interview here, and we're going to just focus right now on 2 things. You said you made what? Like you're looking at like a closing where you're going to make $300 or something. Obviously, you're not doing 60,000 of those deals to make $1 million this year. So what is the
right?
What's the sweet spot? What if I'm in Jim Zaspel's mind? What am I looking for when I jump on the MLS or I talk to the agent? I mean, what's the price point, or how am I describing the deal that I'm even going to go after to make offers, Jim?
That's a brilliant question. So here's what it is. You want, when you're selling anything, I don't care if it's houses or popsicles, you want to sell what the greatest number of people want. At least my model, that's what it works. There are riches and niches, and I do deals high end and low end, but if you want your life to be easiest, focused on doing the kinds of deals that the greatest number of people want. So let's ask the question, what's the greatest pool of buyers out there? It's first-time home buyers, right? We're talking 3 to 4 bedroom homes, 1.5 to 2.5 bathrooms. That's what you want. In my market, that's a 1,400 to 1,900 square foot house. Okay? Price point in the suburbs, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, that is $230,000 to $300,000. That's our sweet spot. I love it when the after repaired value, the ARV, is under $300,000 but above $200,000. With our design, so if you get above $300,000, people get used to seeing a really sweet and classy design. Under $300,000, people are not used to seeing that. So they walk into our house, we got all the granite, the cool tiles, and all this kind of stuff that really makes them pop. They're just like, holy crap, and it blows everything else out of the water. That's why they sell so quickly. So what are you looking for? 3 to 4 bedrooms, 1.5 to 2.5 bathrooms. And here's something you'll learn. 2 things. I talk about square footage. I talk about bathrooms. Square footage, you'll notice the MLS is not 100% accurate. I went to a house this week. It was listed as 880 square feet. I'm sorry, last week. I made an offer on it this week. It was over the weekend. Anyway, it's listed as 880 square feet. I'm looking at the pictures. I'm like, you know what? I don't think so. And you know what? We can always build an addition. So I go there, and sure enough, the MLS, the public record, it was a home pad, bank-owned property. Didn't include this family room addition, 350 square feet, that had been added on previously. And so there, sure enough, I already had an 1,100 and something, almost 1,200 square foot house. But nobody else was offering on it because it's the MLS at 880. All right, next, bathrooms. You want at least 1.5, almost without exception. You always want 1.5. So if the MLS says 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, don't write it off because you can almost always add a bathroom. For what that'll cost, it's easier if the house has a basement, obviously, but you can almost always add half a bathroom. So we're always looking for ways to add value to an existing structure. I've never built an addition on a house. Out of 40 rehabs this year, 38 rehabs this year, I won't do an addition on any of them. But we just find ways to add value with what's already there by rearranging rooms. Nothing is out of question on a house. We look at everything as a blank canvas. That's what I love doing, is moving walls. We've done some pretty cool stuff to make the flow better on houses. I lost track of what your question was, Dan, so if I didn't answer half of it, just have to repeat it for me.
No, that's cool. We're diving into the entire offer process, so you're kind of going in a few different directions, right, which is perfect for where we're at, because we talked about, square footage and, everything you say. I really want to ask like 5 more questions, but I have to refrain sometimes.
Okay.
So you're adding livable square footage too? I mean, what kind of things are you doing to expand livable space and, try to get a little more bang for the buck out of, say, a smaller square footage in a property?
The only times we'll add livable square footage is, say, like a cape design where it's got bedrooms and kitchen, dining room, all kinds of stuff downstairs. The upstairs unfinished, we'll finish that off and put heating and cooling up there. Sometimes if the house is under 1,200 square feet, which we rarely do, and there's a basement, we, if at all possible, finish part of the basement just to give another family room. But the offer making process, back to your initial question, Dan, we focus on houses where people want to buy, and people don't sell really nice houses at a discount. They just usually don't. So you got to solve a problem for anybody. That's how you make money in this business. So it's either a personal situation, somebody passed away, but usually, even if it is a personal situation, the house needs work, right? And so you're going to be buying ugly houses. We bought a lot of houses from estates, meaning somebody passed away and they own a property, and the the administrators of the estate need to sell it. So we focus on buying those. We do direct mail. You can do a search in the MLS for estate deals. But we do a lot of bank-owned as well. That's probably right about, or a little over half of our deals are bank-owned houses from websites like homepath.com, even on the MLS, on auction.com. That's where we focus. And so we focus on constantly searching the areas we'd like to do business. And so I can say with pretty 100% confidence that there isn't a deal in our farm markets and the zip codes we like to work in that we don't at least look at online, because we cast such a wide and thorough net for doing that.
So this brings up an interesting point. You're talking a lot about MLS and the listings, and I'm a guy who buys everything off the market. It's rare that I'm actually just in the middle now of negotiating a few deals on the MLS. But are you buying these all strictly MLS and kind of like listed in the open market in some way, shape, or form? Or do you do like a ton of the, marketing that a lot of wholesalers do? Or is there a combination of both? I mean, where are these deals coming? You got, 10, 12, 14, 20 projects at some various point. That's a lot of inventory to even find, Jim. I mean, how you finding that?
Sure. So you're absolutely right. There's kind of 2 segments of the market, the ones that are for sale, the ones that aren't. And I will say, Dan, the best deals that are found are the ones that you find doing the non-MLS stuff, where you do a direct response marketing campaign, whether it's Google AdWords or postcards, letters, flyers, referrals, whatever. Those are going to get your best discounts. Why? Because of supply and demand. The less competition you have, the lower the price is. The more competition, the higher the price. So I'm going where there's the highest amount of competition. I'll admit that, but we're just making so many offers that we get about 1 out of 8, 1 out of 10 accepted. So we do a lot of legwork. So where are we getting them? MLS, auction websites, probate deals. We do direct mail to probate listings. So anybody who dies in Montgomery County or Bucks County, Pennsylvania, they're getting a letter from us. And we're starting a campaign soon. We're going to get a letter, a postcard, and then a different letter. And we're also mailing to expired listings. And we're mailing to absentee owners. And I have 100 bandit signs going up next weekend. And starting next week when the banners come in, we are putting a big-ass 2-foot by 4-foot yellow banner on the front of every house we buy while we're rehabbing it. So we buy houses. and that'll generate calls as well. Might be a lot of ticked off neighbors who say take the sign down, but I'm pretty sure we'll get some houses off of those as well. So the online, the MLS, probate mailings, bandit signs, banners on the houses, referrals, that's pretty much it right now. But there's a lot of other stuff that can be done. We're just so busy rehabbing, we've got to focus on what works best, even though it's not necessarily cheapest. We just focus on what works with our business model.
Yeah, and sometimes I know I've been talking to a lot of people who I have on the podcast and out and about, here in the Chicago market where I actually live now. And I'm finding more and more that the larger volume rehabbing companies like yourself are buying more of these properties listed in the on-market situation. And even with more competition, it's sort of, where do you go when you need to buy groceries? You don't go to like some guy standing on the corner with a small bag of you go to the grocery store where it's like everything's
right
on the shelf and you can determine what you need based on that huge abundance of stuff by searching out and finding the right little pieces of products. So let's talk about the day of Jim Zaspel. You're going on the hunt. How does this start? I mean, you do some searches, you're setting up some showings, you're calling your agent. Let's go through the entire process of say 3 or 4 of these offers that you make and maybe one of them that gets accepted. Phone
Sure.
calls, the entire thing.
Okay, great. So, part of my everyday routine is reviewing leads. Yesterday I told you I made 7 offers. I felt like I spent the entire day on trend on the MLS, but I wasn't quite sure, but felt like it. So we've got leads coming from different sources. So let's start with the off-market leads. I have a process in place that doesn't involve me on those leads. So we do the direct mail. Phone calls go to a live answering service, Pat Live. It's patlive.com. I don't get a dime for people going there, but it works. They do a pretty good job. I used to have them ask a bunch of questions, but I never got it all completed. So I thought, why am I paying $1 a minute to have them ask questions that don't get answered? So I just said, that now they should get the name, address, phone number. Is your house for sale? Is it listed? And I think the address of the house, that's it. That then is emailed to my assistant. I have 2 virtual assistants, one in Illinois, one in South Africa.
Nice.
They both speak English, and they call those leads back. And here's what's really cool, they get a per lead commission, get paid an hourly basis, $10 an hour, and a per lead bonus. I think it's $3 or $4 per lead they complete. And so the race is on. When those Pat Live leads come on, whoever calls them first gets the work, right? And so then they call the Pat Live leads, which came off of our bandit signs, letters, et cetera, and they fill out a more complete lead sheet on my website. That then generates an email to me and I call my acquisitionist. His name's Carl. He happens to be my best friend, who's best man at my wedding, but he's a cool dude. And really, really smart. So anyway, what he does is he takes it from a lead all the way to under contract to buy. And he negotiates it, et cetera. So all I got to do with those leads is review them. We have a system we use, a CRM system we use to manage the leads. So he imports the information, makes his notes and comments. I review the info he puts in there for me, and it takes me 1 to 5 minutes to review any lead that he touches. So I have 1 to 5 minutes involved in a deal to get under contract with the off-market stuff. If he needs to go take a video, he takes it, sends it to me, right? Because he puts all the information there for me to see. Not paying a big cut of my deal, but that's that process. Then the buying process for the on-market stuff, it's kind of similar, but not quite as complicated. So the way that works is we've got a couple different sources. So we start with the lead. My wife has some drip feeds set up, so an automatic drip campaign from the MLS. My wife has that. So those get emailed to me. We also get them from our realtor. The ones from our realtor just go to my wife. So anyway, we look at the MLS listings, and we know our area well enough. We don't need to pull comps on every single dripping that comes through. We just know the area, if it's discounted or not. So we look at the MLS strippings. That's 4 to 8 or 10 leads a day. And I might pull comps on one of those because they look interesting. And then we have a more thorough drip campaign set up. It goes to a virtual assistant who, this is really ninja. My wife's brilliant. She came up with this. So we get all of this stuff that goes to our VA overseas for $4 an hour. And he takes each of those addresses, puts it in a spreadsheet, and lists the asking price in the spreadsheet on Google Drive, and then puts the estimate, the Zillow estimate, of the value in a different column, and if the difference between those two numbers is a certain dollar amount, like $50,000 or something like that, then it highlights in red. Now, you and I both know, Dan, that Zestimate isn't really worth that much, but it's something. It's an indicator. And so we go through there, and every day we look at the ones that are highlighted in red as well. In addition to the MLS listings, he also scours every single auction website and puts them on there. So anything highlighted in red, I'm pulling comps on, and we might be going to make an offer on it. So then I get all these leads. I pull comps on 5 or 8, on a heavy day, 2 or 3 on an average day. And if it looks good, then one of 3 people is going to go take a video. Okay. If Kevin, our other realtor, sends us the listing, then he represents us in the purchase and in the sale. And so if he sends us a drip feed, a dripping that says, looks like a hot lead, we'll say, hey, Kevin, this is really hot. Go shoot a video. He shoots about a 10 or 12-minute detailed video tour. We have a checklist for him to look at. He puts the video on Dropbox, sends us the link. I look at the video. I go through my checklist. I estimate the repairs. By the way, I'm pretty darn accurate. It's in 5%. Estimate the repairs from the video. I text him, say, hey, here's our offer. And here's our offer. And he sends us the offer. We sign it via DocuSign. Done. So my total time to make an offer on a lead that Kevin sends us is 12 minutes to watch the video, say 20 minutes to calculate the repairs. I double check the comps. I'm in it for 15 or 20 minutes, roughly, to make the offer. Now, if it's a lead that my wife gets or that our VA gets from the auction websites, the way we do that is either I or our our administrative assistant has to go do the video. Okay. So obviously it's a lot more time. I got to go do the video. It adds another hour and a half to the whole offer making process. So we're starting to train our assistant to do that for us so she can do the same thing Kevin does. So take a look at it, sends the video, and I make the same offer. And then when we make an offer internally with my wife as the agent, my wife represents us on the purchase as well as on the sale. And I just send our offer price to our assistant, Trudy. She knows how to type up the contract and sends it to me via DocuSign. And then my wife, the agent, is the one that actually emails it to the listing agent. So we all kind of have our things that we do. I'm the one that crunches the numbers in terms of determining the value. I'm a repair figure. My wife makes sure the offer gets submitted. She does the negotiation with the other agent. That's kind of the process. So our goal is to buy a house a week. So we make, I'd say, 5 to 15 offers a week. We have this bad habit, I'll be honest with you, Dan, of when we have tons of deals, rehabs going, we slack off in the offer making process. We did that. We got desperate, and so we made a ton of offers over the past week, and we got one. It'll probably 2 or 3 accepted. But the better method is just to stay consistent with that offer making process.
Let's talk about the agreement that you're submitting. Do you have an inspection clause to get out of that? Because you've never even physically seen these properties you're making offers on yet, right? I heard you correct?
You heard that 100% correct. We have absolutely no contingencies in our contracts to submit. My wife uses the PAR agreement, Pennsylvania Association of Realtors agreement, which she submits it. We waive every single contingency. If it's a really bad house, we'll put in no contingencies, and the deposit is due within 24 hours of acceptance. And that gives me the time to run over there if I want to. I can tell you I've never done that, though. Once or twice I wish I had, but I've never done it. Because when you make offers on a lot of bank-owned houses, they won't even consider your offer until they actually get the physical certified $10,000 deposit check. So, we are buying plenty of houses without ever actually setting eyes on them.
Okay, so now about the bank, you bring up a good point. So you're trying to make 5, 6, 7, 10 offers on 10 houses that are bank-owned. I mean, $10,000 certified check for each one. So do you have to tie up $100,000 to make these offers, Jim?
Great question. So with my wife can answer better, but I think I know the accurate answer. So most banks do not require the check in order to consider the offer. Okay. What we used to be able to do was leave one check in escrow for, say, 10 offers, and then when one gets accepted, we can't do that anymore. So what we typically do is give them a $10,000 check, or say it's due, within 24 hours of signing. But occasionally there's just one company, Connor & Connor. They move tons of REOs, that's bank-owned houses, in this area. They won't consider an offer unless they get the check. And that's if you're wholesaling houses, don't have much of a budget, It's a huge barrier to entry for this business. But there are plenty of deals to do, and I still do them every day, where you get them under contract for $10 or $100. Like, you're not going to be doing that on bank-owned MLS deals.
Got it.
In my experience, unless you know the trick, but that's my experience.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Wholesalers, new people getting started. I know there's like courses out there for wholesaling HUD houses. And, you know, if I'm telling the story or if I'm telling a good friend of mine who's coming to me with that idea, I tell them to kind of avoid that in the beginning because there's a lot of jumping through hoops, red tape, and aggravation to actually get those deals to settlement compared to the truly off-market deals that you're doing with a seller, a homeowner directly. Jim, you did mention something. I want to go back a few seconds here. You said that Carl would get these, the VA would enter the information. You're getting an email, which I'm sure you're highly attuned to seeing the email come from that sender from your website, and it's got all the information in it from the stuff you're sending out. Are you having Carl, is he going out to every single property that you guys have come through as a lead, or does he disqualify some based on the answers? You know, the people want retail price, it's more of a retail deal, it's in the wrong neighborhood. I mean, what's the process for disqualifying and tossing those leads to the side if he does?
Sure, great question. You know, the reality is most of the houses out there are in very livable condition and don't need repairs in order to be sold. Okay. It would in order to be sold for top dollar, but most of the houses we get from our direct mail campaigns are in fact what you might call pretty houses, meaning they're not ugly, they don't need work. You know, maybe paint or just get the clutter out, but they're nice houses. So if that's the case, you ask some clarifying questions. And what he does is he negotiates over the phone. I taught him how to do that, so he's not going to see most of the houses. If it needs a lot of work, you know, it's really easy once you step back and think about it. It's actually pretty easy to estimate the repairs over the phone. You really can, assuming the person's being truthful with you. So the way we do that, or Carl does that, is, you know, we do not ask them, does your house need any work? You know, other than the tax assessor, the other person who thinks every house is the best is the owner, right? Because their eyes they don't see it. So what you and I do as outsiders, right? So instead of saying, does your house need work, the question we ask is, how much work would need to get done to your house in order to be in tip-top shape and get top dollar for it? That's a totally different question. That's inoffensive, right, or unoffensive. So they say, not really. You really know almost every house needs some work, right? So we say, great, okay, no problem at all. How old would you say the roof and windows are? Okay, great. When are the kitchens and bathrooms last updated? And every house needs carpet and paint. You know, how about the electrical service updated? What kind of heat? Okay, how long ago was the unit put in? And you can, by answering those questions right there, you know, plus or minus what kind of condition the house is in. And so what Carl might do, depending on how hot the lead is, how hot the area is, or how many leads he has to handle, he might say, okay, great, our offer is going to be in, you know, this range to that range. Are we in the same ballpark? I'm summarizing the conversation, but you get the idea. And if they say, yeah, we're somewhat close, he goes out there, makes a solid offer, and tries to get under contract on the spot. If they say, no, go pound sand, he still might go out there. But again, it really comes down to how hot the lead is, how close it is, and how many leads he has to handle. But I would say 90% of them he does not go out to. And a lot of times he goes to them with the expectation of getting their contract at a certain price. Okay.
And one call closes them on the spot. I like that. How many
one call? It might be a follow-up call, but we try to follow a certain script that gets people to, you know, one way or the other, so we're not playing games forever.
That makes sense. So how many of those deals in a month are you seeing? Is that like a one a month, one every 2 months? I mean, how many is he digging up using that process, Jim?
Sure, great question. So we, in the past, actually 7 days, have just ordered all sorts of marketing materials and started vamping up even more. But previous to that, it's been just one a month this year because we've been so busy with the MLS stuff. I fully expect 2 or 3 a month once we get all these other marketing things in play, which is resuming the probate lead mailings, resuming the expired listings, resuming the bandit signs, the banners in the houses. So add all that, it'll be 2 or 3. Previously, it was just absentee owner mailings and some referrals here and there. It's been about 1 a month.
Cool. So I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. It takes money to buy and sell houses, and I know you're not sitting on, you know, $10 million of your own cash flipping all these properties. So let's talk about the process you use for building relationships and putting together some private funding, Jim?
Sure. So I wake up every day and I ask myself this question, which I try to every single day. Who's going to be my next private lender? Okay. It is amazing how when you just open yourself up to the possibility of something, be aware of it throughout the day, how many opportunities present themselves. Okay. That being said, the second thing I do, which is a little more proactive, is I'm always talking about what we do. I mean, you can tell I like to talk. So I talk about what we do to everybody I meet, everybody I interact with. And I also have the underlying assumption that everybody has or knows somebody who has money that would get a higher rate of return if it were invested with me. So it's awareness, it's taking action, talking to people, and have an unshakable belief that someone's going to get a better rate of return working with me, a safer investment working with me than they are in the stock market, right? Or a CD, if, for crying out loud, it's ridiculous. What you don't get paid on that. So that's for starters. Then, I have a question I ask people after I've gone through some rapport building questions. And that question is this. Say, let me ask you, Mr. Smith, do you have any investment capital, either in a 401k, an IRA, or any other investment vehicle that is not currently earning you a high rate of return? If they say, no, I don't, then they're broke, because everybody has some capital that's not earning them a high rate of return. No problem. It's a simple yes or no question. They didn't say no to me. They just said no to the question. If they say yes, my follow-up question is this. Well, you may or may not know. And again, I'm paraphrasing. It depends on the context, how well you know the person. I might take longer to ask the same question. But in essence, my next question is, well, you may or may not know, but I've actually recently opened up my real estate investing business to investors on a referral, invitation-only basis. So let me ask you a question. If I can get you up to 14 times what's the common rate of return for investments, would you like some information on that? And the answer is going to be yes every time. Where do I get 14 times from? For a 1-year CD, I've seen it, 0.5%, 1%. So it's easy to be 14 times that. So we pay them anywhere from 7 to 12%. We usually are around 10%. If they say yes, I give them a brochure and then a CD that I recorded. And, I recorded it with an app on my phone, so not going to like any fancy studio. And it's 16 minutes long, and all it does is answer all the frequently asked questions. Okay. I give them the brochure and CD. If they're still interested, I sit down with them or meet with them on, a screen sharing thing on the computer. And then I, just go through some deals we've done and answer some more questions. Make sense? And, either they're in or they're out at that point. But in no circumstance am I being pushy or anything like that. It's just asking questions, being aware of people, asking that question, and it grows. It grows really well.
Nice. Yeah, we've had, some of mine, I haven't put the CD together, and I've heard the idea. I'm sure it's a great idea. The way I basically raise my private money is when I usually have a deal to fund at the time. Like, I've never had much luck, like going to somebody and saying, hey, I'm, far as maybe someone who's newer in the business listening, I'm thinking about buying some houses, or, I'm going to open up my investment business to private lenders, and would you be willing to invest? And they say, yeah, sure, how much? Or tell me about the deal. You know what I mean? And you have nothing, you obviously have plenty of stuff cooking at any given time. You could accept, somebody into the next coming project. But that, to me, it seems like putting the horse before the car a little bit. So, when I had in 2012, I didn't have any money whatsoever. Or, a lot of my contacts were pretty much drained or not willing to get back into the real estate market at that point. I had a deal that I put under contract. I had that deal. I floated it out to a few people to kind of wholesale it, but I decided early on in the contract that I wanted to flip the house, and I didn't have the $90,000 that I needed to flip the house. So what I did was I sat down with a pen and a paper, and I asked myself pretty much the same question that you're waking up now. It was like, who's going to be my next private lender? And I made a list of, the goal is to make a list of 10 people that you can put down the 10 people's name, put the phone number next to it, pick the phone up immediately and start calling the people on that list. Don't allow any hesitation. Don't let any procrastination get in. And by the time I had made it to the fourth person on my list, which I didn't even have 10 at the top of my mind, by the time I made it to the fourth person, the conversation went along the lines of this: hey, how's it going? And he said, good. And I said, I have a deal right now. I'm looking for some funding, and I was thinking that you might know somebody or be interested in yourself in participating in this deal. And he said, all right, tell me about the deal. Some people, my experience has been, they'll allow you to talk about the deal before they, decline your offer, just out of curiosity to kind of check it out. It seems like a lot of people aren't really sure what's out there. This gentleman happened to be he's a real estate developer. He's a real estate investor. He fixes and flips properties. He actually does no wholesaling, and he's building, new construction to this day. And I asked him, I said, I'm looking for $90,000. And I know there's conflicting advice as far as telling the return. I'm looking for $90,000 for a term of no longer than 12 months. I am going to pay on a balloon the interest of 10%, and I'm willing to pay 2 points to the guy who refers me the deal, who refers me the lender. And he said, all right, let me give you a call back. And, I nervously awaited the call. And maybe an hour or two later, he said, hey, I got it. It's done. We're going to go to settlement. I said, all right, cool. And we went to settlement, and the mortgage that he sent over had talked about making payments. So if no one's aware of what a balloon payment interest is, the balloon payment, in my opinion, lowers the risk tremendously for a rehabber. So most hard money lenders expect you to make a monthly payment. That's not balloon interest. The balloon interest would be all of the interest due upon settlement of the note. When you go to rehab, you would pay back the principal plus all the interest at one time. So in my opinion, if you bought right, you kind of minimize, the inclination to over borrow. Like some people will, instead of needing $90,000 for the deal, they will want to borrow $100,000 so that they can use the extra $10,000 that they're borrowing to make the interest payments. So the reality is you're kind of, from my point of view, risking putting more cash, than you're supposed to in play and kind of increasing the full dollar amount that's taken out against the property. So long and short of it, he ended up, making the adjustment, switched back to a balloon, and I borrowed the $90,000 and paid back, 99 or so when we sold the property. However, it worked out. I don't remember the exact number, and then I paid him, $1,800, whatever 2 points was for bringing me the loan. So, we've kind of done that, along the way, and I found that to be the most effective because a lot of times if you have a deal to fund, a lot of times it's the procrastination, it's the mindset. Well, I don't know if this person's going to say yes. I don't know if I could do this. I don't have the money. This person's going to. So for people just getting started, I'd say punch through the procrastination. Like you said, somebody who has money or somebody who knows somebody who has money, and there's definitely people out there to help get that done.
I think
cool.
I think probably the most important thing you said is you made a listen to call without hesitation. And whether you got a deal or not, that's the key. Call people. Don't wait. Call people. And ask them. It's that simple.
Run right through it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So in the beginning of the call, you had mentioned that your dad bought a book for you, which sat on the shelf for 3 years before you finally cracked the cover. Which book was that, Jim?
That was a Ron LeGrand book, a guy I learned tons from. It was How to Be a Quick Turn Real Estate Millionaire. I think he wrote the book 20 years ago. It's pretty outdated. Wow. But since then, I've actually co-authored turned out to be an Amazon bestselling book with Ron. But that book is The New Masters of Real Estate, Doing Deals in the New Economy. But anyway, all that book was, the first one was just a book full, inch and a half thick, full of testimonials, people who had come from various backgrounds, done deals, made money, had their picture, had the copy of the check in there, and he just talked about how you can do these deals and do money, no credit. And that really applied to me because I neither. So it was designed to have you order some CDs for $20, and then people call you and say, hey, spend $5,000 and go to the seminar. So I did. And nice. I'm really glad I did, too. Yep. And, so I'm super glad.
It's pretty cool. Do you have any other book recommendations lately that you might have read that would be pertinent for people on the line?
Well, I'll tell you what. There's a book that is, and I wish I could remember the author's name. I can't, but it'll come up on Amazon. How I raised myself from failure to success in selling. And gosh, I can't recall the author's name. Read that book a couple of times, and it is whether or not you think you're selling, you're selling. Whether it's like private lenders, sellers, buyers, borrowers, contractors, you are selling constantly in this business. I highly recommend that. And then, I don't know about you, Dan, but I had a lot of bad habits. I, first of all, had to identify and get rid of. And I had to create a lot of good habits in this business. And the book that has instilled in me a desire to identify and the ability to identify the bad habits and good habits in my life, and to do more good ones and fewer bad ones, is the book by Darren Hardy called The Compound Effect. The Compound Effect. I've read the book twice, listened to the audiobook 3 times. It is an amazing book. I highly recommend it. He simply shows you all the simple little things that we do are either going to amount to your success or your failure. The reality is, in this business, making one offer isn't a glamorous thing. It's no big mountain to climb. But making one offer multiple times, once or twice a day, every day, for a year will make you a fortune in this business, provided you have the private money and the contracts in place. But so many people come to me in this business and say, Jim, I've been hanging around your meetings, hanging around you for a while. I haven't done any deals yet. What's going on? And they're just missing it. They don't get it's the simple things, the consistent, simple things will make you in this business. And he just really does an awesome job of showing it to you. Whether it's health, fitness, relationships, business, finances, whatever. It's a really good book. It's an easy read, too. It's an easy read.
Nice. Actually, we had Kirby Atwell. He's a guy who does business similar to like what you're doing out here in Chicago, rehab company, new construction company, and he recommended the same book.
Cool.
I'm working my way through it a second time, and yeah, I can agree with you 100% on that.
Cool.
So we are approaching the top of the hour here, and I have one more question that I want you to answer 2 ways, Jim. First, for the investor who's just getting started, and second, for the seasoned pro, the kind of guy that is, been around the block a few times. And that's, do you have any final jewels of wisdom to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. So where do I start? I'm going to start with where everything starts. And that is, you got to make some freaking offers to make money in this business. Okay? I've known a lot of great people smarter than I am, got more money than I do, fancier backgrounds, and they're struggling in this business. Now, if I ask in this business this question, how many offers are you making weekly? Everybody who comes to me with those struggles to answer that question. Nobody can tell. And so what I would say is you need to identify, there's really only 4 to 8 key activities you need to do in this business, okay? And it could even be construed as being fewer than that, like 3 or 4. But identify the 4 to 8 key activities you need to do in this business, and then track it. I work out at LA Fitness, at least I tell myself I do. And when I do go there, they say what gets measured gets improved. That's so key. So if you want to eat better food, just write down the food you're eating. That's all you got to do, and you'll lose weight. It's that simple. And there's apps for it, right? If you want to raise more private money, just write down every single day the number of people that you talk to about private money that day. You know what's going to happen is after a while, you're going to hate looking at yourself in the mirror, so to speak. At the end of the day, I didn't talk to any private lenders. You're going to start talking to them just so you can write a number down. If you're going to say, I can't find any deals, well, you need to make some freaking offers. So write down every day how many offers. Forget goal setting even. I love goal setting, but forget that. Just write down how many offers you did make. Tracking that activity will cause you to make offers. If you want to, I don't have any contractors on my team. I need a contractor. Great. Write down every day how many referrals you got for a general contractor, and then maybe write down how many contractors you actually interviewed and whose jobs you went to. Writing down those key activities will force you into reality and show you whether you are or are not doing what needs to get done in this business. Well, I don't know how to do rehabbing. Great. Write down how many people you're learning from how to rehab houses, whether it's somebody you can actually physically meet and shadow or somebody whose books, tapes, and CDs you can buy. By the way, I've spent over a $250,000 on seminars, home study systems, mastermind groups, and coaching. And so I'm a huge advocate of paying for education. It's self-serving for me to say that, but it's true. And by and large, not 100%, but by and large, people I've met who've invested the most into themselves for education is people who make the most money. Not always, but it's got to be accompanied by action. So identify the key activities you need to do in your business, which is really simple to do that. Identify the biggest challenge or thing you're lacking or afraid of in your business. That's step 1. Step 2, write down a simple, repeatable activity you can do to rectify each of those situations. And the third step is write down and track how often you do those repeatable activities. And you'll be amazed at how your life or any area you track just improves drastically.
Nice. You obviously have a great return on your investment for the education investment, Jim, and I'm a big believer of that as well. I'll always buy books, tapes, CDs, take seminars, and I'm getting a huge return out of that in my own life as well. But I'm curious. Here's a guy, that's on the line here, looking at, $1 million a year. What's your next goal? What's the next horizon? What's the next big thing that you're going to do, after that to keep your excitement where it needs to be, Jim?
Well, you asked that question with the underlying assumption that it's true, and it shows that you're a true bona fide entrepreneur too, and that means you know that I can't just do the same thing over again because I get bored. You assumed that in your question,
Mm-hmm.
by the way. So my goal for next year is $5 million. So it's in September of 2015, this recording, and I actually just had my assistant market out a video I recorded a week or so ago, and that is goal setting 4 months early. So what we're doing for next year is going to identify, I kind of mapped out different ways how I'm going to, or Lord willing, make the $5 million next year. We will rehab 75 houses, and I got a bunch of other stuff as well. I'm doing some seminars and some more coaching, and we've got the Greater Philadelphia area as well. And so anyway, we've got different things we're going to do through those channels that'll make the money go to. Actually, I have a rehab and home study system coming out in about a month and a half, which I'm super excited about, taking all of the stuff that we do and condensing it into actionable items. And so that's how we're going to do it without going into details. I had a brilliant thought I was going to share with you. Oh, yeah. This is if I can take a second here, Dan. So I've already done the same thing Dan's done, and that is we figured out what I want to do next year. We're not even 3/4 of the way through this year. Why would I be thinking about next year? Here's why. Here's why most people, in my opinion, well, here's one reason why a lot of people fail to reach their goals for the year, is they make the goals the last week of December, and they get serious about them in January. Well, that's awesome, but what's the problem? The problem is you're starting the momentum, if you follow that plan, January 1st or 2nd or 3rd, by the time you get over your hangover, right? So you're starting to build momentum then. Let me ask you a question. What if you started 3 months earlier, identified your goals, and started building momentum? So for us, what does that look like? It means we've got $4 million of private money on the streets. We need another $4 million to rehab 75 houses next year. So we're raising private money. Well, I can't do it all with 2 GCs. So you heard me say earlier, we got a 3rd and 4th GC starting too. They're already identified, pre-screened, and contracted to do jobs. So we're building our team, building the resources we need, building our infrastructure, hiring people as needed, so that we can hit 2016 with the momentum we'll need in order to accomplish our goals. So whether we hit our goal or not, I'm greatly increasing the odds of accomplishing those goals by starting now and starting that momentum early. So I forget what question I just answered, but that was my word of wisdom.
You nailed it.
Okay.
You nailed it.
All right, cool.
So in wrapping up, do you have a URL or contact information if people want some more from Jim Zaspel, where they can go to find out more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've said it 4 times on this call here, Dan, that is one of the most important things that you can do as an investor is focus on making offers. In order to make offers, you got to get deals, right? So what I've done is I put together on a webinar training 29 ways to find motivated sellers. And I list them out in detail so you can literally listen to that webinar, pick 3 or 4 things that you like, go implement it, and you'll get leads. Okay, so the webinar is called 29 Ways to Find Motivated Sellers. Just go to jimzaspel.com, and you'll see it in the top right corner. Put your name and email address in, and I'll email you the link. It's Jim, J-I-M, Zaspel, Z like zebra, A, S like Sam, P like Peter, E-L. And Dan, do you mind if I give out the website so I get some more content through the Philly meetings as well?
Yeah, if there's anybody, we have a national audience here, but if there's anybody in the Philadelphia,
well then just stick with jimzaspel.com, and that'll get you what you need, and that'll get you some awesome content. You can, once you put your name and email address in there, you'll get an email from me. If you want to reach me, you can just reply to one of the emails that get sent to you automatically. That'll come right to me.
Nice. I know we had to keep this thing under an hour here, and we're kind of running out of time. Maybe I'll have to have you on in next year or something. We could do a follow-up because I still have a ton of questions and a ton of things I'd love to have you answer here. But I appreciate you taking the time out of your day, Jim, to come on the show. You've given, I have 2-3 pages of notes here, so I'm sure anybody who's listening's got a ton of value as well. Hopefully you'll go check out that link and get even more value from you. So thank you, Jim, for coming on the show.
It is my pleasure, and I got to say the questions you ask are really good because they make me think, and I think they kind of pulled out a lot of value that your listeners will benefit from. So I got to say, you got started before I did in the business, but we've kind of known each other at somewhat of a distance for the past few years, and I love seeing what you're doing, and you've done something I've not done, that is branch out into 3 states, 3 different markets. And so kudos off to you. And folks, if you're on Dan's list, part of his tribe or his group, you are in awesome good hands, because Dan is the man. He practices what he preaches. And I think most importantly, Dan, you've got the strong commitment to integrity that is so lacking in this business, unfortunately. And so it really is my honor to do this interview with you.
Wow, thanks for the kind words, Jim. And thank you all for listening to this episode of the REI Diamond Interview, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom. You can sign up to receive an email update of new weekly interviews at www.reidiamonds.com. As a bonus for signing up, I have 2 free reports which will complement what Jim is going to give you for free. It's going to go like a hand in a glove there. One report is 7 sources of off-market deals, and the other report is Wholesale Houses 101, 9 steps to buying and selling a house with no money. That website again is www.reidiamonds.com. Until next time, this is Dan Breslin, signing off.
Thanks for listening to the REI Diamond Interview. To receive the REI Diamonds newsletter and interview monthly, sign up now at www.reidiamonds.com.